English translation, 456th contact, Sunday, 18th November 2007, 14:06 hours.
Be greeted, Ptah, dear friend, you have been waiting. Unfortunately, I still had to do something, because tomorrow I have to go with Silvano to Wallenwil to get something in the building supplies. Have you waited long?
You be greeted as well, my dear friend. To your question, no, I just got here 2 minutes ago.
I see. I have thought a lot about what we discussed last time, but before I come to that, I would like to tell you something, if you do not mind.
There is no hurry, so you can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Well, in short, it is the following. You may remember that some time ago, Ji Shi sent us a graphological personality assessment, which was prepared by a psychologist and graphologist. At the time, we were surprised that Ji Chalmers had sent us this report, because it said exactly what we had experienced with him in a very negative wise. The report was so precise and showed the man as he really is. Well, as a result of the fact that this personality assessment was so very accurate, I thought that I could have such a graphological personality assessment done for myself. So I wrote a few sentences by hand and sent the letter away, after which there was a phone call that I should send some more documents, and of course a few words were exchanged. As a result, I collected some of my manuscripts and sent them to the address of the woman who Elizabeth Moosbrugger had found for me. I have now received the report, and I can be satisfied with it. What I have to say in addition to this is, it is very astonishing what the expert opinion has produced, considering that the woman who produced it does not know me at all, and therefore does not know who I am, because I have kept that from her. What do you say now?
It had to come to this point. But I think that you probably did well. Because such a graphological, psychological personality assessment can only show you in the light in which you really live, which will certainly be interesting and important for all group members.
Your word corresponds to what is, because last night Bernadette read the assessment to the group, which was good, because they were thankful for it. In addition, some of the group members now want to have graphological personality assessments prepared by Miss Hasselweiler, who is a graphologist and psychologist. In the meantime, there have also been voices in the group saying that I should publish the report in a bulletin. I will do that and ask Hans-Georg if he would like to write an introduction.
The idea is good because I think it will show many humans who and what you really are. I also assume, in memory of your words, that the report is really good. May I read it?
Of course, look, here it is. Bernadette also puts it into my computer, then I can add it to our conversation.
Thanks.
Ta reads report.
Graphological Personality Assessment for Mr. Edward Meier, born 03.02. 1937.
The handwritten samples of your official typeface that you have given me show a particular conspicuousness. The very pronounced smallness of the letters and the great precision of the form and spatial image. Other dominant features are the unconnectedness of the letters and the sharpness of the stroke. The smallness of your typeface is personality-specific and has remained almost unchanged through the decades, as comparative type samples have shown, even from the youth. The font size shows how a person spreads out in life and how much space he or she takes up for themselves. The small typist like you proceeds very economically because he or she saves power with their drives and uses them sensibly and rationally. He or she also wants to get a better overview because the smaller the font, the better the overview one gets. At the same time, the smallness of the writing gives hints about the consciously chosen self-limitation of a person, his or her self-sufficiency and inner modesty. He or she does not put themselves and their ego in the limelight to draw attention to themselves, but they keep themselves modest and rather inconspicuous and concentrate on themselves. The smallness, as in your writing, is a deliberately slowed down and concentrated movement, which aims at sober moderation and restraint, as well as a high level of factual objectivity and a distinct sense of reality. The small writing style like yours indicates that one is highly concentrated in his or her work, thorough, exact, and absolutely loves precision. It can be seen that your factual competence is extremely pronounced and occupies a prominent place in your life compared to your personality competence appearance, charisma, effect, up to arrogance, vanity, arrogance. The sharpness of the strokes intensifies these symptoms and your ability to think and act with precision. It shows you to be a very self-disciplined, controlled, level-headed person who can maintain your posture and is stable against external influences. In this, the predominance of your ratio and your differentiated thinking becomes clear. In combination with the strong set of rules, your writing reveals you as a person with a strong regulatory will who willingly and consciously subordinates himself to rules which he has accepted as correct and important in order to achieve his self-defined goals in a structured and systematic manner. Through this, even impulsive driving forces are consciously held back in order to gain time through economy and endurance. You have a striking aesthetic need with a strong urge for clarity. On the other hand, you hide your true self behind your stylistic typeface because you do not want to show your naked self. Through your writing, it becomes clear that you demand a lot of yourself through iron discipline and are willing to make sacrifices by personally putting your gifts and abilities at the disposal of the environment, in service to others. Your writing indicates a high sense of responsibility and duty, which determines your attitudes, principles, and behavior. The aspect of performance, achieved through a high level of self-discipline and control, through steadiness and untiring diligence, is enormous. You are a very solid person with a practical sense and a particular ability to specialize in one or more fields, like a Swiss watchmaker. In order to achieve this goal, strong willpower is at your disposal, which gives you the necessary stability, immutability, and a lot of patience, which is only given to a strong nervous system that can control and master its drives, emotions, and feelings. In your approach, you are determined, tough, conscientious, and efficient, and consistently follow the path you have identified as the right one. You do not put plans and projects into action haphazardly and hastily in a flash of inspiration, but rather calmly, step by step, well considered, weighing up all advantages and disadvantages, and are persistent in achieving your goals, which will lead you to success. Your mental abilities identify you as a spiritually skilled person who strives for clarity and overview, and is therefore an attentive observer. Once again, we would like to emphasize your well-considered objectivity, your sensible, logical, and critical analytical thinking, as well as your unconditional love of order and care, which predestines you to be a perfectionist. They combine two things in one: your demand for clarity and order, and the ability not to ignore even the smallest detail and to give it your full attention. This can only be achieved with a high degree of willpower, self-control, and consistency, which you possess to a high degree. Your range of emotions show you to be an emotionally responsive, sensitive, and sensible person with a serious attitude to life. You always strive for equanimity and balance so that you do not lose your inner center and balance. This enables you to control emotions and temperamental outbursts, as well as to avoid conflicts and problems with other humans through your peaceableness. In inevitable conflicts, you react with understanding and look for constructive solutions without consciously hurting or harming the other person. When processing problems, your introverted side comes out. Then you usually retreat, reflect, think, and try to consciously recognize the lesson behind the problem and integrate it into your wealth of experience. In your ego realm, balance, inner stability and resilience, as well as inner modesty and correctly understood humility up to self-restraint are manifested, in that you set yourself self-imposed limits and sometimes impose inhibitions in the expression of your personality. For in your writing there are more signs of restraint and holding back than of the completely free development of your personality. In so doing, you rein in and discipline yourself again and again and limit your ability to enjoy and your sensuality in favor of a more ascetic lifestyle. Your vital area shows a deliberate choice of a very slowed-down movement drive, which strongly restrains your drives with only low intensity. Because your dynamics and your drives are sparingly and economically concentrated on that which is important, necessary, and rational. Your handwriting reveals a somewhat tense physical psychic basic structure, which is why you are not so relaxed and detached and cannot relax so well. Although you want to be close to others in your interpersonal behavior and need contacts and communication, your writing shows a need for independence. A healthy mistrust lets you be careful and keep your distance. Out of protection against too much closeness and a possible loss of control in devotion to another person, you tend to hold back, allow only a few people to really get close to you, and give only a few chosen ones a glimpse of your inner self. You are anything but a party lion, but a nature-loving, rather introverted individualist, for whom long-established few friendships are more important than many, and always new acquaintances. What counts for you are real, genuine values in the interpersonal sphere. Since strong attachment tendencies can be seen in your official writing, the expression of your personality is monitored and slowed down by a high degree of rational control. But what counts for you is the saying, "In peace lies strength." You are a person with inner richness, who strives for harmony and wants to live in harmony with the environment. This makes you the keeper of the inner world. But compared to the official script, there is still the very personal, private, almost intimate rough copy of Mr. Edward Meier, which does not deserve this self-described negative attribute at all, because it carries a high level of form. For only in this very individual script, your personal idiosyncrasies and your nature are expressed much more than in the official writing. Even the completely different signature, which stands in such striking contrast to the text font, made it clear that behind the formal conventionality there is a different person, the kind of person that only a few confidants and friends know. This other writing, in contrast to the former, has so much liveliness, vibrates and trembles in a rapid, cloaked rhythm, in such originality and naturalness that this is what gives insight into the core of the being, the self of its writer. It is only here that your personal idiosyncrasy becomes clear and reveals your creativity, your talent, your inner self-confidence, and also your personal originality, which can only become apparent when you turn away from the school norm. The dominance of the rough copy have shifted compared to those of the official writing. There is a greater connection between the letters, a greater proper positioning, more width and a greater difference in length, as well as looseness and emphasis on movement. This is where your range of talents comes into play. Great versatility, spontaneity, the ability to improvise, initiative, expansion, and the desire to constantly open up new areas. Also in the spiritual realm, the previously hidden intuition, great inner differentiation, imaginative and inventive richness, and the speed of reaction of a forward-looking, future-oriented, open-minded person can be seen. In this second writing, your urge to be active, your joy of movement and your self-confident, natural, unconstrained core of being becomes clear, which can also turn to the beautiful sides of life in a relaxed and detached manner. The emotional realm allows you to be recognized here as a perceptive, sensitive, and compassionate person with great depth of emotional life. In addition, in the area of human relations, a trusting and understanding care for the environment, kindness and openness are also evident. In the case of interpersonal problems, your diplomacy and your smooth and peace-loving ability to adapt will show. Because despite inner strength and security, you are not a person who has to go through the wall with his head in control, dominate or manipulate others, but has the attitude, live and let live. In the area of performance, your great versatility and open-minded interest will come to the fore, which will allow you to progress further and further without stagnating or coming to a standstill. The spiritual principles of order are also clear in your rough writing, always living moderately in its center and resting in itself, uncomplicated and in harmony with your environment. The official writing shows your self-image, which you have of yourself or have taken over from parents, teachers, and other educators, and the rough writing shows your original natural personality, which you have preserved. It shows who you really are, what you are able to be and perform, the other writing the image you want to give to the outside world, how you want to be seen by the environment. In the official writing, your values, moral and ethical, come to the fore, principles and tenets that shape your life and actions, often through unconscious attitudes and beliefs. Here, the appearance censored by the mind, a reshaping and transformation of your deep layer, stands opposite your true core of being. This being no longer needs to lead a shadowy existence, but can be shown also in public, because it has more richness, character, and inner vitality from the graphological and script psychological point of view, combined with a higher script format. This writing shows the true, natural, genuine, undisguised Edward Meier, who is not pressed into an outer form, who is truly worthy of being seen, an intelligent, versatile, open-minded, intellectually skilled, gifted human being with heart and mind, who combines all aspects within himself, factual, social, and natural personality competence with high emotional intelligence, and who is a master in himself at the same time. Monsieur Hasselweiler, psychologist, graphologist, Cologne, Germany, 31st October 2007.
It is really very astonishing. For the whole thing is excellently and precisely fathomed and remarkably accurately held. When I consider that the woman does not know you except that you had a short telephone conversation, as you say. Of course, there is much more to say about you, your personality and your character, your virtues and your wholeness, but this goes far beyond a graphological psychological appreciation. But I think this woman would be able to fathom many more things in you if you would give her the opportunity to do so, although I think you are not interested in that, if I am not mistaken.
I am really not interested in that. What is written in the report should actually be enough to tell those people who are interested in it something about me.
When I think of all your adversaries, then they can take an example from the expert opinion with regard to the lies, insults, and slander they spread about you. If they had the courage to have such a personality assessment done on themselves, I think they would come off extremely badly. But now let us hear what thoughts you have about what we discussed in our last conversation.
So then,
Your thoughts are all honorable to you. But before we continue the conversation, I would like to give you some predictions that I have worked out. The first to be mentioned are new large bushfires that are ravaging Malibu in the USA and destroying numerous houses. Then it turns out in Pakistan that the powerful Musharraf resigns from his office as commander-in-chief of the army, but seizes the presidency of the state. Then a seaquake of magnitude 7.4 occurs in the eastern part of the Caribbean, which causes a tidal wave but which is not very significant. Of great importance will be a severe ice storm, which will cover several states in the Middle East of the USA with ice and in which human lives will be lost. These are the most important things I can say about predictions. I will certainly be able to tell you more when I come back to you in the afternoon of the 12th of December.
Thanks. Then I have one more question. Although we have talked about it several times, it was always done unofficially, even with Quetzal. It is about the primeval volcanic eruption about 75 million years ago, by which many life forms were already exterminated, including several large species of dinosaurs, such as similar to the Tyrannosaurus but smaller than them, but which were followed by larger creatures after the volcanic catastrophe, such as the Tyrannosaurus, and even more powerful ones. These were then again wiped out by an enormous catastrophe, when a huge chunk from space crashed onto the Earth and hit a huge crater in the Gulf of Mexico. In addition to the fact that various large and small volcanoes erupted worldwide as a result of the impact, which completed the catastrophe and affected the whole world, which happened about 65 million years ago. That is what our earthly scientists have found out. But they seem to know nothing about the volcanic catastrophe 75 million years ago. At least I have never read about it or seen anything on television. Only after this catastrophe, so you said, the actual giant dinosaurs emerged, which were then exterminated by the great cometary impact. Unfortunately, I no longer know where the giant volcano was on the continent of America at that time, which 75 million years ago destroyed the life of that time, just like the dinosaur generation at that time.
The area was where the state of Montana is today.
Yes, now that you mention it, I remember. Thank you for your help with your thoughts, because now I can tell you about it, because someone asked me about it.
Then I have a few more issues to discuss.